welcome on into the Work Wherever podcast. I am Roy Edwards. I'm your host. If you're first time here, this is a podcast where we talk about working remote, working wherever. We talk about life on the road. We talk about breaking away from traffic, from the office space, from the 9 to 5. And we have a great guest on today. And so when I started working remote, the lifestyle of kind of like working from the road and traveling and stuff like that, that wasn't really a thing. It was kind of like you either worked from your house, or that was really it. Businesses still wanted to know where your location was. They wanted to know what you were doing. And so as that trend has kind of changed, and maybe the pandemic had something to do with it, I don't know, but that trend has started to evolve over the last 4 or 5 years. Pandemic certainly escalated it. We have more people who are looking to get outdoors. You'll see RV companies who are starting to put offices within their RVs. We touched on that a little bit on an earlier podcast. And now you're starting to see homes that are starting to develop office spaces within their homes, instead of it just being kind of a converted bedroom. Now you're seeing dedicated office space in buildings um, and structures of new home developments, which is pretty cool. And so we're going to get into the RV side of the world and getting outdoors and the trends around RVing today with my guest, she's actually the first guest in the new studio, and her name is Jessica Ryder, and she is the CEO Camper. So welcome in, Jess. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you for having me. I was like jamming out to the intro song. That's
Isn't it
awesome.
great? Yeah.
I like it.
That is Joey Yak.
Oh, I
He
love Joey.
Yeah, he did my last podcast intro, and he did so when we rebranded from the Innovari podcast to the Work Wherever podcast. I obviously had to call Joey, and yeah, he threw that together. And the first time I heard it, I was like, I don't know if this was really the vibe that I was going for, but I love it. So
No, it's a really good chill vibe. I like it. I like it a
yeah,
lot.
the last one was very like kind of in your face, and this one is definitely like totally the opposite direction. So yeah, I
Yeah,
feel like it fits the
it
outdoor
does.
camper RV chill life vibe that you
Mm-hmm.
have a lot to talk to us
I
today
do.
about. So
Yeah.
the CEO Camper is that's your title,
Yeah.
or what you go by. And so
Yeah.
where'd that come from?
So it combines two of my passions, business and camping. I obviously a CEO. I own two businesses. I also run two other ones on a daily basis, or I should say, another business in a not for profit organization. But I have this passion for business. I have a passion for seeing things grow, the hustle, the grind. I love it, but I equally love my time in the outdoors and nature, camping. And when we say camping, I'm not in a tent any longer. I am in a 40-foot fifth wheel. Um, but that's the thing, and I think it fits great with this podcast because I take that thing wherever I want to go, and I work every time I'm in it, whether it's a weekend, a week, whatever. I'm always working in it, and I love it. It gives me that balance that I need.
How long have you been doing working out of your fifth wheel? How long has this been like, obviously I would assume pre-pandemic, right?
Yes, yes. So a little backstory. In 2013, I was, I guess, 28 years old then. I had a crash. I was working in the mortgage industry, and I had a crash, not a physical crash, but a like where I just completely broke down. Right. I ended up in the hospital with stroke-like symptoms at the age of 28. I mean, they put me in like I was having a stroke, and weekend testing. Hey, just probably some anxiety, and you're overworked. I knew then that something had to change. I just didn't know what that needed to be. And my husband is an avid outdoorsman. We had a tent then. I mean, we had a 27-foot tent then. It was outrageous. It was difficult to put up at times. We had our own little utility trailer to put this thing up, but to haul it around and everything else. So I didn't enjoy the outdoors as much because it was work. But after that crash, I changed jobs, changed some things in my life, and we were fortunate enough to buy our first RV. And that changed the game for us because I'm able to plug it into my house. We were able to, kind of maneuver some things. And so my RV then and now sits on the side of my home. So everything that I need is right there. I've created systems for myself that everything is there. All I got to do is if I decide on Thursday afternoon, hey, I want to go camping this weekend, or I need to get away, or I need to recharge, whatever it is, I can literally grab some groceries, throw them in there, and I'm on the road. And so that really changed how we camped, which then allowed me to change how I was doing business. Because for those people that don't understand all of the benefits that nature and the outdoors can bring you, not only personally, but in your business, I mean, you need to start doing some research. I can tell you, like, case in point right now, where I'm at, I'm sitting on my deck working, and I work out here when it's cool almost every day because I enjoy being outdoors. I enjoy just having natural light instead of, harsh light inside. And because of that, I've been able to like find my balance, and having an RV is like, okay, good. I'm tired of being at home. Let's just get in the RV and go. And so I can take it, I can work. People always are like, well, can't you just turn work off? And I'm like, no, when you're an entrepreneur, you don't turn work off. And I use that term lightly because I don't think I am one. But at the end of the day, like, I can get up on a Saturday morning while I'm camping. I can do a, 4 to 5 mile walk or hike or be around the lake or do some grounding or whatever I want to do, come back and do 2 hours of work and be completely refreshed and rejuvenated. And that's what that balance is for me. That's why I enjoy it.
So you have a camper parked
Mm-hmm.
next to your house
Mm-hmm.
that has an office space already set up in it. So you're not. Are you transitioning your laptop into that office space and plugging in, or you have it set? Like, what's your setup there? Because you said something that I didn't really think about. Because we travel a lot.
Uh-huh.
Obviously, we work wherever, right? But I have my dedicated office space actually in our house, and so I have to unplug my laptop, and sometimes it can be inconvenient if I'm like running three laptops. But you said that you just grab groceries and go, so I assume you have a dedicated workspace in the RV.
So I don't have like a dedicated office, right? Um, I use the table in our
Right.
RV, or I use the table outside at the campsite or whatever. So I like to be flexible. I have definitely thought about having, we once if you buy an RV, you get into the one that you think you like or it's going to work perfectly, and then you realize a year or two in, like, oh, I wish I could change this or I wish I could change that.
Yeah.
uh, we have two couches. We don't need two couches. This is two of us. So I would love to take one of those couches out. It's just one of those things like that takes time, and that
Yeah.
takes, somebody to do it, which my husband could do. It just doesn't time, right? And so I'm like, I just use our table. I
So
use you do that.
can you gut an RV? Like, can you
Oh
take one
yeah.
of those couches? It's just you can move things around, right?
Yes. So theoretically, this is not always 100% the case. A lot of times with the older RVs, most of your appliances and furniture can fit out that door,
Huh.
like your front door. Now, there's some that like newer ones, not always the case, but I mean, you could cut a couch in half and take it out the door, you
Yeah.
know? So,
Huh.
yeah.
Interesting.
One
So
of, go ahead.
we had that's so interesting because I kind of just figured that it was just like it is what it is, you
Mm-mm,
know.
mm-mm.
But they're like literally you can totally remodel them.
Oh yeah, there's people that take them down to the studs. So one of the things that I do is I am the managing director for a not-for-profit for women inside the RV industry. It's called the RV Women's Alliance. It was started in 2019 by some women in the industry because, as you can imagine, the industry is a little male dominated, right? And
Right.
so this organization was started to just help educate women network within the industry, and they brought me in 2021 to help manage and drive it forward. And so that's something that I do. I'm very, very passionate about that. But what it's allowed me is a lot of learning about the industry and what's going on and who the players are, and connecting with all of them. But yeah, there, you can pretty much do whatever you want. But this organization actually in 2020 during COVID, they completely tore down a 2005 travel trailer to the studs and rebuilt it.
Huh.
Yeah, and then they did a sweepstakes and gave it away.
So so I understand what a travel trailer is and I know what a fifth wheel
Yep.
is, but can you explain the difference between, so when people think RV, they think tour bus, right?
Yes.
So break down what a travel trailer is and a fifth wheel is as
Yeah.
opposed to an RV like tour bus type of stuff.
Y- Yeah. So there's all different kinds, right? So you have two kinds. You have a motorized, meaning one that you drive, and you have a towable, which is one that you pull behind a vehicle, right? So a travel trailer basically just hooks up to your bumper of whatever tow vehicle you're using, right? Your hitch is usually on the bumper of your vehicle, and you just hook it up right there. A fifth wheel actually will go into the bed of your truck a little bit. It's usually like the first 5 or 6 feet go inside of your bed, and your hitch is actually in the middle of your truck or tow vehicle, whatever you have. And then the rest just kind of flows behind it. So those are the differences there. And then your motorized, you actually have 3 different levels. So you have your class A, which is your buses, right? Your $250,000 motor home going down the road. You have your class B, which is like your camper vans. And then you have your class C, excuse me, which are kind of your I mean, they are your motor homes. Like they're like the normal ones that you kind of see, like they can maybe look like a little bit of a van in the front, like a big box and behind it.
What made you land on the fifth wheel? So we've been renting RVs because we're trying to figure out which one to purchase. Because,
Yeah.
like you said earlier, you alluded to it. You said once you buy, you realize all the things that you wanted or didn't want or need. Or so
Yeah.
I come from the boating world, right?
Okay.
And my dad was always like, when you buy your first boat, buy something small because you're always going to want something bigger and different. And you're going to really, this isn't good for fishing or whatever, right? So like buy a beater small boat for your
Hmm.
first boat so you realize like how you're actually going to use it. So like what made you land on the fifth wheel? Because I've done a lot of like wrong booking through types of RVs that I thought that I wanted. I'm glad I rented first, but like what
Hmm.
made you land on the fifth wheel?
So you bring up a really great point. When we bought ours, so our fifth wheel is a 2017. We bought it in the fall of 2016. Renting was not the thing, right? Now it is. So just a little side tangent. If you are thinking about buying an RV, go out and do exactly what Roy's doing and rent as many as you can with so many different layouts, because you don't know what you don't know until you get in that thing. So when we first said, okay, we're going to buy an RV, we my husband and I had this agreement, right? We had a 2005 Dodge Ram. We knew it could pull about 7,500 pounds. We didn't really want to go over about 5,000. The agreement between him and I was, if he were ever to get a bigger truck, I wanted a bigger fifth wheel, right? So I wanted a big fifth wheel from the very, very beginning. But when you have a truck that's perfectly fine and it's paid for, you're like, let's just buy with what's in that. So that's what we did. We bought a 27-foot travel trailer, very first one. And it was great. Honestly, it was great for the two of us. It had a good sized bathroom, kitchen, dinette, bedroom. Like that's all we needed. And it, pulled fine. There was no issues. But we had a 140-pound St. Bernard. And there was not a lot of floor space because it had an island in the middle. Like it was a great little setup, but like when you start putting two dogs in there, like we had a dachshund and a Saint Bernard. When you put a Saint Bernard in there, and then you're all four in there, like when it's raining, it gets tight and it gets tight quick. And that's something that we didn't even realize, right? We were just like, this will work for the truck that we have. So that was one thing. And then, after about a year of pulling it, my husband could start telling like a little bit, that was weighing a little bit on the transmission of his truck. I mean, we had an older truck at the time. And so we are always at the belief, like, let's try to get a little bit of money out of it while it's still running white. So, I mean, I'm telling you, he said, I'm going to get a new truck. And it wasn't a month later. I'm like, I'm getting a new camper. And so, he bought the truck in May. In October, we were at the RV show buying a new RV. I wanted a fifth wheel. I wanted that big camper. And so we, went around and round about brands and all that kind of stuff. And, to give your audience a little bit advice or tip, there's, I think, almost 100 different brands out there of RVs. three companies make a majority of the RVs.
Hmm.
So there might be, like, for instance, the biggest manufacturer in the RV industry is Thor Industries.
Yeah.
They own 36 of the brands. So your camper is, if you're buying from, for instance, Keystone, like Keystone is
Yeah.
makes Montana. That's what I have. That's the same, like most of them are the same, right? And
Yeah.
so if you keep that in mind, most of your layouts are going to be the same
So wait,
across
I didn't
brands.
realize that.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the is it like the type of material that is used, or what's the kind of the difference there? Is it just brand recognition?
Brand recognition.
Wow.
So, oh yeah. So typically, what happens is somebody will start an RV manufacturing company, and they'll start making them and doing well, and then they get bought out.
Mm.
So there's, you've got Thor, you've got Forest River, and you've got Winnebago. Those are the three major manufacturers, and then all the brands are underneath one of them.
Wow.
Yeah.
So the last one that I drove was a Jayco.
Okay. Yeah.
That was the last one. So is that Thor?
Nope. Jayco is made by Forest River.
Forest River.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
And then the Keystone, you said the Keystone? Well, that's
Key,
Thor.
Keystone is owned by Thor. Yeah.
So those are the two that I'm like looking into in terms of which ones should I go with.
Yes.
Um, and I know that I have a Chevy Silverado,
Okay.
the 1500. So
1500.
I'm
Okay.
on the lower side, which I basically got sold. Um, well, I was their commercials around the Silverado is like go work wherever, and I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, you have my attention,
Mm-hmm.
like
Yeah.
so like they have the Wi-Fi package and everything like that, and so I I bought it, and I knew that we wanted to get an RV, but the 1500 has a smaller tow capacity, so a
Mm-hmm.
fifth wheel is probably out the door.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so I went with it. I wanted to get a tow behind, and we rented a tour bus, big old,
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
huge one. And once you get to the place wherever you're going, you're stuck.
Mm-hmm.
So, did you guys ever go down that route of like wanting a tour bus style, or you kind of knew you kind of knew like, hey, we want to get out and explore kind of thing?
The being stuck is what
Yeah.
got us, right? So again, I said my husband is an avid outdoorsman. He grew up camping his entire life, right? So they
Okay.
had a 1982 Coleman pop-up was like their camper, growing up. But he grew up with family members all that had uh, RV, actual recreational vehicles, ones that you drive, motorized. So he knew that, like, backing in a boat with an RV is not fun, you
No.
know. So we knew we did not want that. We knew we needed that extra vehicle. So we knew either a travel trailer or fifth wheel was the way we were going to go.
Yeah. We got the first one we ever rented was the big tour bus style. I was like, this is the way, two
Yeah.
pop outs. And then we get there and we look around and there's not many of the types that we had, and we're like, what are we missing here?
Yeah.
And then it was like, oh, we need to go to the grocery store, or we want to go to the theme park down the street, and it was like, I
Yeah.
get it now, because I gotta unhook everything and drain and do it, and it was a huge pain in the ass. So
Well, and those are perfect for, you see a lot of retirees in those, right?
yeah,
And they're usually pulling a golf cart or they're
right,
pulling a car behind them, and they're going somewhere for months at a time. And
right,
then they have their little vehicle. I know some friends of ours, their parents, now they have a fifth wheel, but they have, the truck, the fifth wheel, and then they pull a golf cart. And then they snowbird down in Texas from Thanksgiving to April 1st. And they tool around the golf cart everywhere. Their truck basically sits the entire time unless they've got to go, big grocery store trip or something. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, that's when you see people in those big buses, they typically have a tow vehicle.
interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so before we hopped on here, you
Mm-hmm.
had talked a little bit about the numbers of who is representing the industry, and
Yeah.
because as we have this conversation, you go to a park.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Are they called trailer parks? I don't even know. Like, you go to
Campgrounds.
campgrounds. You go to
Yeah.
see, but see, like, I'm so new to this
Ah.
this uh, lifestyle in terms of pulling an RV,
Hmm.
that you go there and most of the people are there have been doing it their whole lives, right? And they get the hotel.
Mm.
No,
That's
you're
what they
saying
make
no.
you think. See,
Okay,
that's
all right.
what
Well,
you
tell me
think.
more about that then, because I
Okay.
could have swore I was like the new kid on the block, and everybody wanted to like. I'm like backing in, and like six people come over, and they're like, "Go this way, do
Okay.
this."
Listen, I'm usually that person. So when I see somebody struggling, I'm like, do you want my help?
Yeah.
But you think that everybody there knows everything that they're doing and they've been doing it their whole lives. It's just like, social media or anything else that you're on, right? You see somebody killing it and you're like, you think that they're killing it and everything else that they're doing. That's not necessarily the truth. I mean, they could just be starting out like you. They've just taken more trips than you,
Mm,
right? So they could only be doing it for like a year. They've just taken 7 trips and you've taken 3. And so
yeah.
they've kind of worked out those kinks or think that they've worked out the kinks. Listen, we've been doing this. I mean, we've been camping for 15 years together, my husband and I, tents, and 2015 is when we bought our first travel trailer. So we've been doing this for 7 years. We still have kinks. Now we have a system, but there's still kinks. And so there's newbies that you wouldn't think are newbies because they look like they have it all together, but they've really only been doing it for like 6 months.
Yeah.
They've just taken more trips than you. You're not the
So
only one, believe me.
what are the numbers in terms of people who are like RVers full time as opposed to people who are like weekenders or like recreational?
Well, if you get online, you would think that everybody's a full-time RVer, and
Yeah.
that is not the case. So the numbers actually, there's anywhere between 11 and 12 million RVs on the road right now. Only 1 million to 1.5 million of those are actually full-time RVers.
Hmm.
And what's crazy is if you actually look at the regulations of the industry, you're not supposed to live in that thing full time. It
Really?
is a recreational vehicle.
Okay.
It's supposed to be used for recreation. You're not technically supposed to live in it. Now, everybody does, just like you're not technically supposed to speed, but you do. Like it's just kind of one of those things. But the challenge is there's 9 million people out here that use their RV part-time. The average is 4 times a year. It's crazy. Like, I was telling you earlier, like for us, we're about 20 weekends a year that we're in ours. This past year, I've I've done a lot more long distance travel with it than we've
So
ever
when you
had.
say long distance, what is that? What is long distance?
So this time last year, actually, we were coming home from Ohio. So the very first time that I pulled the RV by myself, I pulled it to Elkhart, Indiana. It's about 6 hours. So I live in St. Louis. It's about 6 hours. Elkhart is the RV capital of the world. 80% of the RVs are made in Elkhart, Indiana. And so I pulled it there for a week by myself, did business in and out. I mean, you should have seen the people in the campground look at me when I'm getting out of the RV in heels, dressed
Right.
for meetings, all this kind of stuff. And the retirees are next to me and they're like, morning. I'm like, morning, you got
Right.
the coffee on.
Yeah.
But I'm headed to business. They're retired and doing whatever they want. But um, then I pulled it down to Ohio and met my husband there for a wedding. And uh, I love to have my own space. And that is the thing that I love about having an RV is that I can pull that thing anywhere I want to go. I have my own food. I have my own clothes. I have my own space to work. I bring all of my gym equipment that I went to. And I say like weights and stuff. I have my own space. I
Hmm.
don't have to worry about a hotel. Where's my food? Do they have a fridge? I don't have to worry about any of that. It's
Yeah.
behind me.
What do you use to connect for like Wi-Fi? Like when you're on the road?
Typically, I'll use my phone,
Okay.
or sometimes campgrounds have Wi-Fi. I'll tell you, in the fall, we typically go to the same place every weekend. That is where my husband hunts. And so we are at the same place, right? It's a public campground. It's owned by the Corps of Engineers. It's a beautiful park. I love it. They have Wi-Fi. You pay for it.
Hmm.
So typically, we are up there a week in November, And so I'll pay for the week. It's like $20 for the week. So I'll pay for that. Um, Weekends, it's like $4 a day. So like for this is a tip for those that are doing business like I do. So if you're a weekend camper like I am, we leave our house about 3:30 on a Friday afternoon. We get to the campground about 7. I don't pay for Wi-Fi as soon as I get there because you only get it for 24 hours. So I have in my head exactly kind of when I'm going to work or get creative or need to be on the internet, because like I can get creative and start pumping out like some social media posts or pumping out, to dos or whatever. That doesn't require the internet. And so I'll get up the next morning, do my walk, do all that kind of stuff, get prepared, get those ideas, pump them out. And I'm like, I need the internet. Okay, I'll go pay for 24 hours now.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't think about the 24 hours when 12 of them are going to be 10 of them, 8 of them you're going to be sleeping,
Yeah.
right? Huh. So I
I
have
mean,
I obviously have a phone hotspot too,
yeah.
but does that work well enough for you, or like what do you do more of, purchasing the internet or using your hotspot?
Typically I'll purchase the internet or get on it. Now, I won't do any financial things on anybody else's internet. I only will do that on
Nice.
my phone. So
Yeah.
like if I want to um one company that I work with, I do the payroll. I'm not going to use anybody else's internet to get into our system and do payroll,
Right.
or check finances or anything else. I don't even like using my phone, but if that's what I have to do, I will use my phone hotspot to do that. But I won't get on, I even kind of limit the internet emails, on somebody else's Wi-Fi. We have not upgraded to having Wi-Fi on our rig yet.
Yeah.
That'll probably come in the next 6 months.
Have you seen Starlink? Have you seen the
I have, yeah.
have you ever tried it out, or do you know anybody in, because they're making a pretty hard push in the RV industry.
Yeah. So in the industry, there are 3 players
Okay.
right now in the RVs, and like who make the devices for internet, TV, all that kind of stuff. Right. You've got one of them. The major one is King.
Okay.
They own the market, really. And
Satellite? Is it satellite internet?
satellite, and internet,
Okay.
Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff. Weingarten is the second one. So you'll see when you look at your RV, you'll see most likely you'll see like a Weingarten antenna. It's like a round dome on top of it, right? Newer RVs, and then you got a third player, and they're kind of small. So, like we're in the process of probably the next 6 months, we'll probably get a King system. In all honesty, I hear through the grapevine they're coming out with something this fall, and I'm really kind of anxious to see. I was with one of the Weingarten, well, I was with King, but also a Weingarten rep 2 weeks ago, and they have a really cool thing coming out, basically Alexa for your RV.
Ah,
So you can say, okay, RV, turn the lights on,
I like
and
that.
it'll do it. I was sitting there talking with him, and I said, okay, can it do this? Can it do this? What about this? What about this? He goes, no. And he gets out his laptop and starts
Right.
taking notes. And I said, okay, well, if we're going to have this conversation, this is what I would want it to do. Does it have a
Yeah.
night mode? He goes, I don't think so. I go, that's what I wanted to do. When I say,
Yeah.
okay, RV night mode, 6 things happen. You don't have
Yeah.
to worry about it. So,
Yeah, I'm starting to look into the internet side. So I do a lot of, so I have a clearance through the
yeah.
Department of Defense, where I do a lot of military. So a lot of remote work, displaced workforce prior to 2018 was military members who were out in the field that
Mhm.
needed to get data quickly so they could make life or death decisions. So that was like where my work wherever kind of stem from, is
Mhm.
Department of Defense military operations type thing. So I have a clearance. So when I go to Wi-Fi anywhere, I won't connect to a Starbucks. I won't connect
Mhm.
to anywhere similar to what you're saying, because that's where a lot of malware and stuff would live. So I have like little plug-in USBs, which are relatively expensive, especially if it's DoD.
Mhm.
The one router plug into your machine, you get good internet, but my son's devices and stuff like that. I actually did a YouTube video, which I guess if you guys are listening, you can go to our YouTube page and check it out. But where we compared different Wi-Fi from your phone to the plug-in USB to my truck that has Wi-Fi, and we did a bunch of comparisons. And so that whole like what you're talking about, King system, and those are huge
Mhm.
for the amount of technology that we have in our lives these days. Kids with their, my kids play Fortnite. I don't,
Mhm.
like take them camping. Here's the outdoors playground, and they'd want to sit there and stare at the screens. We had to take their screens from. But
Yeah.
there's so much connected, especially when you're working remote. Things that you have to do. So for those, I didn't know that campgrounds had Wi-Fi. That's certainly an interesting tip there. Uh,
Not all of them.
they don't. Okay.
No, not all of them. So, okay, so here's a little bit more education.
All right. Yeah, hit me with it.
Sorry. So, there are different types of campgrounds, right? There's
Okay.
private, meaning they're held by a private entity, or there's public, meaning your state parks, your Corps of Engineer parks. It will depend on where you go. Most private campgrounds, I would say, have Wi Fi. You're paying more per night.
Yeah.
Um, it depends on the campground, but a lot of times that you're kind of more packed in.
Yeah.
Um, Public campgrounds in your state parks, in your Corps of Engineers, you may not have Wi-Fi. It's up to the state, kind of where you're at and all that kind of stuff. Um, the thing that we love about public campgrounds is one, they're cheaper per night, and two, you're more spread out. You're actually, for us here in Missouri, you're actually in nature. There's trees. When you back in, you have to worry about there being trees for your slide outs and all that kind of stuff. Where our experience with public campground or private, you're just right on top of each other, which
Yeah.
makes perfect sense when you think about it from a business standpoint. You're like, I need to maximize my space. I need as many, RVs as I can fit in here as possible. So, um, not all public places have Wi-Fi.
So check before you
Check
go.
before you go.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't realize that there were public. I mean,
Hmm.
after we did our trip, we went to multiple different spots. Some were like KOA has a really
Hmm.
good app that we were using of where
Yeah.
we could go. So we lived for 21 days straight out of an RV last August, and we were driving around and hitting the KOA app. We did, what is it, Yogi Bear?
Yeah.
Is that what it's
Jellystone.
called? Jellystone.
Hmm.
Yeah, which Jellystone, awesome with the amenities, but you are packed on
Hmm.
other people. Like if you kind of like tilt the wrong way, you might hit into somebody's camper kind of
Yeah.
a thing. Like you
Yeah.
are packed in there. So I had no idea there were public private before venturing out. And then, but it makes sense as to say the amenities are different, but you're definitely in nature in some parks where you're like camping,
Yeah.
whereas other was you're in a parking lot in the
Yeah.
woods kind of a
Yeah.
thing.
If you check out, I don't, uh, I'd have to see where it's at. Like my husband posted a reel one time on his social media. One of those like I love my wife songs or whatever. So it's all
Yeah.
these little reels of me. But you can see me physically feeding a deer almost out of my hand from one of
Nice.
our camp spots. And I say one of ours. It's we don't
Right.
own it, but it's like one of our favorites in like the park we always go to, right? And they literally, I mean, they're right there. They walk right up to you. That's what
What
we
do you
love.
prefer? You prefer the public over the private?
We do because of the scenery, of the
Yeah.
nature, of the more space. Um, Private is not bad. We've done a lot of private camping, private campgrounds. It's just, again, you're packed in there.
Yeah.
We had like I mentioned earlier, we had a 140-pound Saint Bernard who was dog aggressive and very protective. So
Mm.
when I don't have space between me really and the next person, and then the next person has a dog, like it was very stressful on us because my dog was beautiful and he was great and he was amazing. But you come at me or you come walking up to me and he thinks you're a threat, he's coming after you. And so we liked to have more space.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So with that, with the RV trends,
Mhm.
because you mentioned something there about the King and how you had talked to the manufacturer and
Yeah.
they're talking about what's coming up next. Last year, last couple of years, since COVID, really,
Mhm.
you've seen this boom in like outdoor
Yeah.
boats. You can't get a boat, they're all
Mm-mm.
sold out.
Yeah.
Can't get an RV, and then now I'm being told that they overcompensated for over and now they're like, now is like a good time to. I've heard that now is the best time ever to buy an RV. I've heard that wait 6 to 12 months and it'll be like so. When's a good if somebody's looking to get into this world and purchase an RV like myself? Like, is now actually a good time, or is this just something that we're being told by like Instagram ads and stuff like that?
I would wait 6 months.
Okay, why is that?
And so you're absolutely right that it went gangbusters during COVID and everybody bought. And so production was ramped and ramped, everybody's going. It has definitely slid off. The industry expected it to third quarter, and this year, third quarter, and it's happening. They, I just saw the July shipment report. It's half of what it was July of last year, which it's back to a normal level. So I don't know how much you've driven around to dealer lots, but they are full. Where this
Yeah.
time last year, they were empty. You couldn't find an RV to save your life. And so now, production has caught up with demand. So now we're overstocked. So you're going to see a lot of dealers probably do a lot of sales, a lot of, you know, I love their marketing tactics, stupid deals and crazy deals and all this
Yeah.
kind of stuff, over the next 3 to 6 months. The thing that I would watch for is, quality. If you've been in the RV game at all, you know that quality has always been a challenge,
Mm-hmm.
but you have to remember you're pulling your house on wheels at 75 to 80 miles an hour on roads that probably sometimes haven't been repaired in 10 years. You
Mm-hmm.
know, you're jostling this thing around, things are going to come loose. It's going to happen. Doesn't mean that, they're not built to the highest standards. They are built to good standards. It's just that we're also moving these things around. So you're going to see in the next 6 months, 6 to 12 months, all these people during COVID that were like, oh my God, get an RV, get an RV. They either have given up the lifestyle because now they can fly again or do whatever. So they don't need this RV. They're going to want to dump them. Um, or you're going to get people that are so unbelievably frustrated that the quality of their RV just isn't there. I mean, we were at a community event 2 weeks ago with our mobile RV repair company, and these people bought an RV and it has been in the shop. They bought it earlier this year. It went into the shop in April and it's still not fixed.
Wow.
They have not used it at all. And they're like, this is ridiculous. And I'm like, this is so sad because these people want to enjoy this lifestyle, but they can't because you know, their RV has been in the shop. So you're going to get those people, right? They're done with it or they're so frustrated that, there's repairs and all this kind of stuff. They're going to try to dump it. If you are handy, I would say get a new one, right? Like if you want to buy, pick your RV, figure it out. If you are handy. If you're not so handy, I would buy an older one, like a 2019 or older, simply because you have to think RVs are made, 80% of RVs are made in one town. And when there's only a certain number of people that live in that town, that they dumped out, they pushed out double the amount of RVs. Just do the common sense there,
Yeah.
you know?
Huh.
So we've heard all the horror stories of everybody having problems with these newer ones. Not, you can still get good ones, but if you're handy, then you're fine. But yeah, the next 6 to 12 months, we're going to see a boom, I think, in used RVs for sale.
Do you think that's going to equate to like more like parks or campsites
Mm.
or Do you think that we'll see that, or do you think that we're not there yet?
We're getting there. So I don't know the stats off the top of my head, but I know they're astonishing as far as the number of campgrounds and the number of campsites that are actually out compared to the actual number of RVs, right? So if we said there's 11 million RVs on the road, again, don't quote me on this, but I think it's only like 200,000 campsites
Hmm.
across the US. And that's campsites, not
Right.
campgrounds, like the actual sites. Like it's something crazy like that. Like the number is just so, distant from each other. So I do think we're going to see more parks. I do know a lot in the, new infrastructure bill or what have you.
Yep.
There's money for the outdoors going to help fix up a lot of these parks. A lot of these public parks are outdated. They're old. I know there's I know there's some private campgrounds that don't even you can't even book online. You've got to
Yeah.
call, Susie, and she's only there this time to this time, and you got to call her, and then she's writing it in the book, and there's a lot of old campgrounds out there, and I think people have to be careful, right? So there's opportunity for investors, I think, to go in, but my struggle with that is if you are not an RVer and you don't understand the life, you're not going to be able to like run that effectively.
Hmm.
You can't just go in and see the reoccurring income and be like, okay, yep, I want this. Let's go. There's a service component to that you've got to be very mindful of.
Yeah. And campsites are so different, and you can tell the ones that are I don't know, Mickey Moused, I guess. Like you
Yeah.
go to you go to like we went to Hershey Park, was
Hmm.
the last one that we went to, and it was a great campground. Um, but there was definitely like a different type of vibe to it than some of the ones we had gone to in the past, where that are more nature esque. This one was
Sure.
like kind of like pretending to be nature. It was more like, here's your wristband, the thing picks you up and takes you to the park over there, kind of. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And you can see that element of business versus the people who are like true campers type of
Co-
type of
Come enjoy
people.
nature.
Exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Well,
Yeah.
I appreciated this conversation.
Yeah.
I've learned a ton.
Well, let me just tell you, if you
Yeah.
give me like the three or four things that you have to have in an RV, I'll tell you
Yeah.
exactly which one to buy.
Okay.
Like
Can
I'm
I
not that,
can I do
that
it
yeah,
now?
yeah. Like you have two kids,
I have four kids.
four kids. Okay, how old are they?
11, 7, 6, and 2, but he'll be 3 probably by the time we buy.
Okay, so we need a bunkhouse.
Yes.
How does your wife or you do with like having the toys strung out and all that kind of stuff?
Okay, but we definitely made use of like the understorage
Okay,
area. So
okay.
that would be, I would like to have that. I do know that I would like a um, door to the sleeping quarters, I'll call it. Like the main bedroom area.
Your bedroom, okay,
Yeah, and the kids,
and the
if
kids.
possible.
That's what I was gonna say. You
Yeah,
need a bunkhouse with a door.
yeah.
Um, I would even venture to say you need two doors, one
Okay.
for the bathroom. So
Yeah.
if you find the layout with, and I'll research it and send it to you because I can't think of what it is off the top of my head. Bathroom, like when you're looking at the back of the RV, bathroom is on the left, and the
Yep.
door goes outside.
Yeah.
Bunkhouse is on the right with the door that closes. Right, then you have a usually either a U-shaped dinette. I would pick a U-shaped dinette because then you can put four kids around it. Right, that's
Yep.
pretty simple, and then you have a couch in the kitchen, and then your bedroom. Um, something around the 27 foot would probably be about as big as I would go for you with the 1500.
Yep.
And that might be stretching it because of the weight capacity. I mean, What can you can probably pull about 7,000. Is that what you're rated to
Yeah,
pull?
yeah, for dry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I have the upgraded tow package, which I think is 11.5, but obviously I
Okay.
don't want to get anywhere close to that. But
Yeah.
but yeah, the feather lights and stuff like that I'm finding are like 6,500 dry. That's what I did last time was a
Hmm.
6,500 dry Jayco,
Yeah.
the feather light or whatever. And
Yep.
it pulled great, but we only drove like 2-3 hours, and I was a lot less confident on the way back. It was like kind of
Mm.
swaying a little bit, you know?
Well,
So,
keep in mind that you rented that, so they didn't give you probably the best hitch out there.
okay.
So when you buy one, you need to get the tow bars with the sway hitch and all that kind of stuff that will help tremendously with that. You won't have as much as that sway and all that kind of stuff. Whenever if you look at something around the seven, no more than eight, because you figure you're going to put 1,000 pounds worth of stuff in it.
Yeah.
Um, if you keep it at the nine, between the eight and the nine, no more than nine, I think you'd be good. So it's something around 27 foot, 8,000 pounds. With that bunkhouse, I'll send you a couple layouts. I know I can picture exactly what you need. Um, I Depending on the bathroom on the left or the right, you might be able to get an outdoor kitchen, which might save you a ton.
I want an outdoor kitchen.
Yeah, yeah, because you need that outdoor fridge. With 4 kids, you
Yeah.
can't have them running in and out getting snacks and drinks and all that kind of. Just put all that stuff in the outdoor fridge, and have at it. If you don't have one with an outdoor fridge, or an outdoor kitchen,
Hmm.
get yourself a mini fridge
Okay. That
because,
just plugs in, right?
and then just plug it in, you know, uh, to the outlet or whatever, and keep all your drinks out there.
The one we rented had the bathroom on the left. So if I'm staring down,
Hmm.
from the back of my truck, it was on the left, and the back door walked into the bathroom,
Yeah.
and you could lock the door
Hmm.
to the bathroom to get into the RV. That was
Yeah.
like game changer because if
Game
you're
changer.
tailgating or something like that, you don't want somebody going through all your stuff to get to the bathroom.
Nope.
You just here's the bathroom. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Same with the kids. Like, if
Right.
I mean,
Yeah, yeah, right.
you talked about having to take their devices away.
Yeah.
Lock the door. You
Yeah.
can use the bathroom, but you can't go in and get your Fortnite stuff.
There you go. I
You
love
you
it.
need to you need to spend 5 hours outside or whatever it may be.
Yeah. I love it. This
I
was a
see. I
great
don't have
conversation.
children, but these are all the things that I'm like, I would do this. But I've been around enough to
Yeah.
know. I see all these parents struggle, and I'm like, oh, listen, you should have got this camper that does this, and then you wouldn't have that problem.
Yeah. I love it. So Jess, how can people find you? How can people get in touch with you?
Sure. Yeah. So if you have any questions related to RV, I do own a mobile RV repair company. And one of the things that we do for people for free is called our text to tech program. So there are a ton of people out there that can DIY and they can fix little things and all that kind of stuff. But if you get into a jam, my techs are certified with our RV industry. Text us, right? And so you can find that company. It's at Pull Through Sites, through completely spelled out THROUGH, on Instagram, pullthroughsites.com. I'm Pull Through Sites on everything. That is my mobile RV company. We will help you if you're in St. Louis, 100 miles. We'll come to your house and do your repairs, that kind of thing. If you want to find me personally, I am on Instagram at Jessica_L_writer. You can also find me, website jessicalwriter.com, and everywhere else.
Love it. Love it.
Yeah.
Thank you for the time today.
Yeah. Thank
Uh,
you.
I mean, I knew this was going to be a great conversation because it totally fits in with the show, but like I've come away with so many nuggets that I know that people listening to this are going to come away with nuggets too. So I really, really appreciate it. This has been
Yeah.
great.
Whatever help you need, I am here to help you get into the RV life and help you figure out like any systems that you need or your wife needs,
Yeah.
as far as like to make it easy, how I make it easy. People are like, how do you just get in that thing and be able to go? And I'm like, because I have created so many systems for myself that make it that way.
I love it. I love
Yeah.
it. The CEO camper. Jess, thank you so much for
Yeah.
hanging
Thank
out today. I
you.
appreciate it. Well, guys, hopefully you enjoyed this this interview. I know you did. Hit us with some comments if you're on YouTube as to what you want, what you think, what you're looking for in terms of RVs. If there are other things that you want us to talk about in terms of the work wherever culture, hit them with in the comments on the YouTube there as well. As always, guys, it was fun hanging out. Until next time, see you. Hey there! Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications for all the latest videos from Capital Presence.